Welcome to Live from Lockdown Library, presented by Bookworm Goa, with your hosts Nayan and Anandita. This is a series of conversations with book and library people where they share their responses to the ongoing global crisis. We're talking social distancing from a community perspective. We're talking access to books and storytelling, but in quarantine. The hope here is to find ways together to reimagine the library, to think of it as a vital, evolving, transcendent space that can both hold and give voice to this moment of intense uncertainty. Presenting Live from Lockdown Library.
Hi, I'm Anandita, a library educator with Bookworm, and today I'm speaking with Dr. Nandita de Souza. Dr. Nandita de Souza is a developmental and behavioral pediatrician who has been working exclusively in the field of child and family mental health for the past 5 years. Dr. Nandita is the director of Setu Center for Child Development and Family Guidance and is an ambassador for children's health and well-being. Good afternoon, Dr. Nandita, and thank you so much for joining us on Live from Lockdown Library.
Good afternoon, Anandita, and thank you for having me here. This is my first podcast, and I feel like a big celebrity.
Thank you, Dr. Nandita. So, during this time of COVID-19, we have been witnessing a lot of story content being posted online. What are your thoughts about the sudden surge of online content in the field of library work?
I think it's great that there's so much out there, and every day more and more content is being added because COVID-19, the pandemic has impacted everything, the world outside, our inner world, our relationships, the way we work. And if it has pushed us to try new things, to be creative, like never before, I think that's great. And it's a real opportunity to do things differently.
We have also observed that many library groups, literacy groups, and many organizations are engaged with a lot of relief work as a way of addressing needs that they feel are relevant. What do you think about this in light of a vision for libraries?
Well, libraries are part of their communities, so they have to respond to the community needs. I don't think they can be set in ivory towers, which are distant from what the community needs at that time. So, and because of the work that the libraries have been doing with their communities, they would have a good sense of, what are the challenges with their communities facing and so on. And if it's relief work that is required, I think, they need to be involved in that. At the same time, I also think that they should not lose sense of their purpose and the core activity for which the library has been formed. So it's a delicate balance, and maybe initially, yes, a lot of time is spent on relief work and responding to the dire and immediate needs of the communities they serve. And I'm hopeful that once that emergency has settled, at least partly, they can devote themselves more to strengthening the literacy activities and so on, which are also very, very key to, human development.
This pandemic has been a difficult time for everyone in a lot of ways, and it's asking us to examine our own vision and area of work, as well as whom we want to work with, why, and so many more questions. How do you feel this applies to educators in the library space? Do you feel libraries are relevant in this situation and at this point of time?
Libraries will always be relevant because human progress, human development is a story in itself. The fact that the library is there and can be a place of nurturing, a place of education, a place for a partnership, that in itself tells me that it is very essential to human development. However, because of the present situation that we are in, it has definitely thrown a challenge that probably of the scale that we've never ever seen before. And so we need to look at how we can meet this challenge. And I think things which all of us need to do is to look at partnerships because only through partnerships, pooling of ideas, sharing of resources, can we kind of go ahead. And though we can't meet physically, we have the internet and the digital space where, makes partnership so much more easy, because you don't have to kind of travel or, it's much more convenient. I think we also need to focus on institutional resilience. That will be very important for the work. It's not just the work, but it's also looking at how will the funding be sustained. What about the staff well-being? Are we geared to meet these new challenges? Do we need to do something a little different? And so on. So both these aspects are important.
During this time, have you come across any library activity that you feel relevant during this time and situation?
I haven't personally experienced anything, but I've been kind of reading up about what's happening, and I know, for example, Bookworm, has been doing a lot of stuff to meet this challenge, and you all have been writing about it also. As well as I listen to Dr. Arvind Gupta's podcast, and I'm really happy to know that there's so many resources and stories in different languages, so many translations happening. There's so much choice and kind of platforms where these are available. So what I'm looking for is to hear the voices of children. Because Bookworm is very good at doing this. And I want to know how this has impacted children's reading by the children. I mean, I need to hear from them, because I think once we understand the impact it has had on children, they probably also have some solutions for us, because they're great. They're experts of themselves, and they think in very creative ways. How has this impacted them? I mean, are they still reading? What would they like to read? Is there anybody who can read to them in the house? And so on.
What has given you strength and purpose?
I'm really blessed to be part of a community. I've never ever felt alone, and I don't feel that now. And I think I'm in a very privileged position where, I have access to all forms of communication. So being in touch with my supports, despite the social distancing, has been a huge has been really beneficial. The other thing is, it has pushed me to think of new ways. And in that, I see the opportunities, and together with other people in the team, both at Setu, as well as teams which are working in a similar space, across the world. I think there's so much to learn. So I've been kind of trying to attend as many webinars as I can, where people are talking about children and child development and, mental health and so on, to get ideas, to make links. And it's, as I said, it's really a chance. It's an opportunity which we can seize. In terms of the work that we do, we've had to look at different ways of reaching out to children. And though they seem rather daunting at first, again, through my support group and talking to others who are working in a similar situation, sharing ideas and looking towards the future. And I don't think this is going to be something like, how do we cope with the next 1 month or the next 2 months? It's probably going to continue for quite some time. And, and therefore, kind of reaching out and forming partnerships with others interested in similar areas of work and are doing something, and, sharing those ideas and adapting it to your situation. I think these are ways in which I have been able to feel positive and hopeful for the future.
Thank you so much. Lastly, could you share with us and with our listeners one thought or message that has been illuminating for you?
I think the thing that kind of comes to my mind again and again, which keeps me going and really gives me hope, is that we are not alone. This is the time to be brave things that you were afraid of, and just I say to kind of modify the Zen saying, leap and the internet shall appear. So I mean, for example, the podcast, right? I don't think I would ever be doing a podcast if not for COVID-19 pandemic. Webinars, we've started doing webinars, which was so scary when we first started, but now we're getting better at it. So a lot of new things. So that's what I would urge people to do, that we're really blessed to be part of a community. And even if we feel lost, again, lost is also a place. And it does give meaning to our life. Sometimes we just need to pause and acknowledge and reflect and say, yes, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, and that's okay. And I can always find help from the community, or maybe from myself. I mean, just if I give myself time, something may come through. So yeah, so I think it's important for everyone to remember that we are not alone.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nandita. And thank you for joining us on Live from Lockdown Library and sharing your thoughts on the same.
Thank you. I feel the same way. And I wish the Bookworm team the very, very best. You guys are trailblazers. So all the very best to you.
Thank you so much.
This has been an episode of Live from Lockdown Library. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next week.